Thank you, Francis. Good afternoon. I'd like to call the meeting of the Oklahoma City Metropolitan Area Public Schools Trust to order. First order of business is to approve the minutes of the June 1st, 2010 meeting of this trust. And I recognize a motion to that effect.
So moved.
Been moved. Is there a second? Moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed by like sign. Thank you. We have two financial reports. Mr. Winger.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. These are the general obligation report for April 2010, and then we also have the trust schools payments from the period May 12th through June 2nd. The detailed information is attached, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Are there any questions? I would recognize a motion to ratify both reports.
So moved.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed by like sign. Thank you. We're now being asked to approve the preliminary report for the Early Start Alarms Group 3 at 8 schools, Project ES 75.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We do not have a presentation on this item today. Again, it is an early start project. It is fire alarms for these schools that is intended to go under construction very soon so that we can have systems in over the next school year. These were requested by the fire marshal. There are 8 schools, and they're listed here. The project is under the proposed budget. Final plans will be due at the end of the summer, and we are recommending approval.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, I would recognize a motion for approval of this preliminary report.
I move approval.
Been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed by like sign. Thank you. We're now being asked to approve the schematic design report for Project ES 64 Rockwood Elementary School.
Thank you. We do have one presentation for you this afternoon. This is Rockwood Pre-K through 6, a little more than 650 students. We have Matthew Radcliffe here from Mass Architects that's going to present and answer any questions that you might have.
Good afternoon. I appreciate this opportunity to present the schematic report for Rockwood Elementary. Just following the outline of this presentation, taking a look at the scope of the project. The model that we were provided is to create an environment for 653 students, renovating the existing space and the addition of new classrooms. We followed along with the assessment that was provided, making sure that we maintain all of the requirements therein. The recommended concept took a look at 3 specific areas of concern, the first of which being the site drainage issue that has existed in between the 2 buildings. You'll see the existing building on the south and the existing building on the north. It's connected with a hallway and a stair. The area in between has had water infiltration issues for the entire history of this property. There's a subterranean drainage system that is inadequately sized and fully obstructed. The second item that we looked at was trying to consolidate the circulation, being that the south existing building is 2 stories. The north existing building is 1 story, but is a floor below the others, effectively making this a 3-story, 3-level building. The idea of only adding to the north building still only gives us 1 area of circulation to connect the 2 buildings together. We wanted to try to create 2 areas of circulation so that we can create somewhat of a loop about that school, allowing the circulation within to be greatly improved. The third was that once we looked up the original design documents for the building, the original 1937 documents showed that on the south side of the original building, they had intended for 2 additional classrooms to be built that were never built. By doing so, we could kind of complete that original composition and gain 4 more classrooms in that area. So the recommended concept is to add those 4 classrooms on the south side to complete that original design, and then build within the space between the 2 buildings. By putting a roof over that area, we can eliminate the water problem and the storm drainage that occurs in between the 2 buildings. Then the addition would be a 2-story addition on the north ground level so that the second floor could then tie into the floor on the south side, allowing us to connect the building to a more cohesive facility and allowing the circulation within to be greatly improved. So this shows the proposed floor plans. The top plan is what was labeled as first floor, which is the north side ground level. shows a media center being built in the area between the two buildings, and then our kindergarten and pre-K rooms added to that ground level. Directly above that addition is first and second grade, which then brings the construction south to tie into the existing hallway in what we've labeled as the second floor plan, which is the south side ground level. You will then also see the two fourth grade classrooms added to the south side. The third floor gets the additional 2 classrooms on the south end. This gives us the ability to make sure that all of the grades are kept in wings within each other. Everything is kept close together, and then the remainder of the space is renovated for all of the additional requirements of the model: larger admin suite, larger media center, and some of the other special needs requirements. This is an illustration. The white area is an illustration of the additional space to show how it ties in with the existing structure. The other purpose in keeping this building as compact as what it is the major site grade change that goes east-west through the property would have water sheet draining into the building on the north side. So by keeping it a really compact footprint, we're able to grade the water around the site and not need any other subterranean drainage systems. Again, another view of the overall massing. For the area in between the two buildings, there is a retaining wall to account for that level change. This is the area that has had so much water problems. This is just an illustration of how, preliminarily we're looking at putting a roof in that area. To the side that has the higher grade, we would use that merely as a mechanical chase. It is in an occupied space, but we're able to then drain the water over a roof to roof drains and away from the building to keep it from going within the building. We would use light monitors, not skylights, but light monitors to get natural light into the media center. Our cost estimates over the initial facilities assessment has us under the budget. However, when the assessment was done, the need for a new roof was not included. Since that time, there have been 3 or 4 major roof failures in the south building that we would like to address. That is currently shown as an alternate, and as we move forward in the preliminary plan, we will adjust the budget to see if we can get that within the program budget itself. Project schedule, if everything holds true, we'd be able to start construction the summer of 11. With the way the renovations would need to be broken up, we would probably need 3 summer times in which to complete the renovation of the existing building. Those 2 interim school years, we could do all of the additions that are needed. There are some temporary, the annex buildings, the portable buildings are pretty close to our construction site with 1 phase. So the first thing that we would propose in our project execution is to, that first summer, renovate some of the spaces in the original building that don't change much. That following school year, start to do the 4 classroom addition on the south side. By the time that is complete, we're able to turn those 4 classrooms over, and we can start to remove some of the portable buildings that would stand in the way of us finishing the 4th phase of construction. So phase 1 would be the interior renovation of half of the south building. Phase 2 would start the additions to the north building and to the south building. Then that next summer, we would renovate the remainder of the south building. That following school year, we would work on tying in the addition. And then that last summer, we would renovate the north building to finish everything up. That concludes the presentation that I have.
Are there questions?
You mentioned the light monitor. What exactly is that?
It would be just a clear story window. It would just be a vertical window rather than a horizontal skylight, a vertical window above the adjacent roof to allow light to come in.
Are there other questions? Thank you. I would now recognize a motion to approve this schematic design report.
I move to approve the schematic.
Been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed by like sign. Thank you. Next item is recommend the Board of Education of Independent School District Number 89 to ratify the issuance and approve addenda numbers 1 and 2, award the contract, base bid only, to W.L. McNatt & Company in an amount of $11,398,000 and approve contract and bonds for project EB13 at Capitol Hill High School.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We had, of course, Capitol Hill is one of the largest renovation projects that we have in the Maps for Kids program. Budget on this was about $10.8 million. The low bid was around $11.4, so it exceeded the program budget by $566,000. My architect was our architect. We did receive 3 bids, which is of some concern to us as we have been seeing 8 to 10 bidders on previous projects. We visited briefly with the contractors, and it's a complicated project. There's a lot of phases that are in Capitol Hill. Without the new construction, there's not a place to relocate students, and so there's going to be lots of transitioning, lots of moving, and of course the schedule is lengthened to take care of that. But the bids were in line. We are not recommending the alternate due to the project being over the budget, but contingency funds are available. We're prepared to proceed, and we're recommending approval.
Other questions? Anthony?
Not so much a question, but rather a comment. And I'm a little late to the game where this is already being bid, but it seems to me as if this is something of this is a very old building, a very large building, and it seems that this is not enough of a budget to have addressed the problems with the building and to address its needs going forward. I asked a question of council about if 4 affirmative votes are required here, because I have concerns about it in general, but I'm going to vote for it just to make sure that it moves along. But if my negative vote would not have stopped it, I would have voted against it. It seems to me as if, for lack of a better term, this is somewhat good money after bad.
I don't know that you need a response, but as we look at the history of the program, the projects were analyzed some time ago, and I would agree there are some new concerns, i.e. just on the project that we just heard on Rockwood, where the roof is failing, yet it wasn't a need that was identified several years ago, and so we're trying to address the newer items as we can. And as we work through the Capitol Hill project, I know that there were some additional items that the architect had to take on as part of the challenge in addressing those while also meeting the budget at the same time. We were comfortable with the budget going through that process, and I know we work very closely with the school, but I would tend to agree. I think that obviously if additional funds were available, we could find a use for them at these schools, but we are addressing all of the safety, site concern, renovation type items on each and every MAPS project. And if we get into construction and we find other concerns and areas that need to be addressed, like asbestos and other things that become hazardous type condition, we'll address those as well. But I just wanted to give you certain assurances that we are doing our best with the monies that are available on each of the projects to also ensure that we're finishing the 72nd project just like we started the first.
Thank you.
Carla?
Can you tell us, with the exception of the alternate one, which appears to be the $194,000 for the new parking lot, ramp, and sidewalk, what other items would you want to include in this project that we're not able to because of a lack of funds?
I think it's probably on all the projects where we would desire a brand new roofing system on every single project, but in a lot of cases the desire is to have that 20-year warranty on every school. We're finding that a lot of the roofs, at least when we evaluate them, are in good repair and just need general maintenance. And so in a lot of cases we may go with the option for maintenance in lieu of the new roof. Same thing would go for playground equipment and other areas where we're more or less salvaging and saving versus just tearing out and making it all new. So we are having to take those sorts of concessions on each of the projects, but we're obviously not going through a process where we're recommending that something that is truly lost, if it can't be salvaged, we're not recommending that those items be saved. And so we are finding that in schools too, where there's extensive termite damage, and we literally can't save millwork in a classroom when we have to buy new millwork. We're having to do that. But in other cases, we're finding that it's just not the right paint color, and instead of buying new, we're just updating the colors of millwork with new paint. But it really is a project-by-project evaluation as we go through that. It is challenging, and it's something that we'll continue to have a sharp focus on moving forward.
Other questions or comments?
And I will just say, that I'm not casting aspersions on the overall wisdom of the projects going forward, but this one in particular.
I understand.
I'd recognize a motion for approval.
So moved.
It's been moved. Second? Is there a second,
Second.
It's moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Next item, adopt a resolution authorizing renewal of an agreement for school design meeting and community outreach services with the Gooden Group, Inc., fee not to exceed $100,000.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This will be our second and final renewal of the Gooden Group contract for community outreach services for this trust. It is a not to exceed amount of $100,000. To give you an idea of what was spent last year, we spent nearly $22,000 through April 30th, and so there's still a few months remaining on the current contract. But again, they provide some services that include the meeting notifications for our community outreach meetings. They also plan to program the groundbreakings, the ribbon cuttings, and also do our annual report as well. And so it is much a positive experience and a good service to this trust, and we are recommending that we proceed through June 30th, 2011.
Any questions? Seeing none, I'd recognize a motion to approve.
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed by like sign. Thank you. Next item, adopt resolution ratifying the issuance of and approving addendum number 1, awarding contract to J.L. Walker Construction, Inc. for the base bid in the amount of $3,593,000, accepting the unit price for existing roof substrate repair at $4 per square foot, approving contract and bonds for project ES 51 Southern Hills Elementary School, and authorizing execution of the documents upon receipt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is our second construction award for our meeting today, and it also is over the budget by $454,000. Obviously of a greater concern because it wasn't as large of a project, but we did receive 4 bids. J.L. Walker was our low bidder. And you'll see again that the prices for the base bid were very much in line, and so we're at a point where we're doing our best to try to understand what has changed in the market since the project that we were bidding, say, just a month ago, and what has happened today. With this, from J.L. Walker, what we've recently learned is that the mechanical electrical bids are not in the numbers that we were seeing before. They only received 1 or 2 bids, depending on the general contractor, for those trades on this particular project. That was something that we'd experienced maybe 2 or 3 years ago, and I can't tell you today why that is happening, but we are trying to address that. We're looking at that for the next projects that are bidding and seeing what opportunities we can make available, hoping that it's really just a short-term problem that will resolve itself when we're ready to start bidding again in about a month. Again, the project meets the requirements of the implementation plan of our standards. Although it's over budget, again, program contingency funds are available, and we're recommending its approval.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, I'd recognize a motion for approval.
I move approval.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed by like sign. Thank you. We now have one change order. We're being asked to approve change order number 1 for project ES 34, Lee Elementary School, increase of $31,091.16.
Thank you. Lee Elementary is nearing its 50% completion mark, and this is the first change order for that school. One of the older schools in the district. There are 13 items for your consideration today, totaling $31,091. The most significant of those 2 are item number 7 and 11. Sewer line replacement. There was an existing sanitary sewer that was uncovered that required replacement. Item number 11 is an electrical modification. Again, panels were undersized and required to be replaced to provide the proper electrical service. This is generally a strong renovation project. There's a small new addition, and so every wall that we tear into, we're just finding a lot of things which are being addressed in this change order, things that the architect could not have seen during the design. And you'll see these modifications and covers and different things that are a part of this change order. The total change order represents a 1% increase of the original contract amount. Project contingency funds are available, and we're recommending approval.
Other questions? Seeing none, I'd recognize a motion for approval.
So moved.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed by like sign. Thank you. Next item, authorize purchase of desktop computers from Hewlett-Packard in an amount of $2,424,103.66 for the Oklahoma City Public Schools District's project EST 37.
Thank you. With this purchase, this will be the final for the desktop computer replacements in Oklahoma City Public Schools, and this will amount to about 9,000 new PCs that have been installed across that district since we started the Maps for Kids program. We did send out notices to 9 vendors, and 3 responded. Hewlett-Packard provided that best proposal. You'll see that at $2.4 million, it was significantly lower than the budget of $3.7. We've realized that throughout the term of the program just due to the bulk purchasing of these PCs. Again, this was about 2,400 PCs in this purchase alone. This will include all the PCs that are necessary except for the new downtown elementary school, and we'll address that once that project is constructed. The project is within budget, and we're recommending approval.
Are there any questions?
Eric, is this the first time we've bought HPs?
This is the second time we'll have bought HPs.
Are there any other questions? I'd recognize a motion to approve.
So moved.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed by like sign. Thank you. Next item is to authorize the purchase and installation of network equipment and classroom phones in 11 schools from Presidio Network Solutions in an amount of $773,743.89.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The schools that you see listed here, these 11 schools, are those that are going to require network equipment over the next several months. Each of these is either in construction or going into construction very soon. 18 vendors on city contract were solicited, and 3 responded. Presidio provided the best quotation at $773,000, again below the budget of $835,000, and we're recommending approval.
Are there any questions? Recognize a motion for approval.
I move to approve.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed by like sign. Thank you. Next item is to authorize the purchase of furniture, fixtures, and equipment for Project ES-21, Britton Elementary School, and Project ES-28, Putnam Heights Elementary School, not to exceed $186,000.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. These projects were previously approved, and this isn't much different than the item that we brought to the last trust meeting. These two, however, exceeding their PIP budgets for various reasons, and an additional $21,343 is required to complete the furniture purchases at both schools. Britton Elementary School happens to be a very large school that has new administration and some newer function spaces that's requiring about $4,000. Putnam Heights is actually not a school receiving a large new addition, but we've reprogrammed much of the new space on the interior of the old space, and it's exceeding its budget by 17. The project has contingency funds in each representing those, and we are recommending approval so that we may proceed.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, I'd recognize a motion for approval.
So moved.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed by like sign. Thank you. Mr. Winger, would you like to step in for Mr. Couch today?
Thank you. I'd be happy to. The projects on our update, as of today, we have 23 schools that are in construction. Of those 23, we have 8 that will be completing construction this fall, making ready for the fall semester in Oklahoma City. We have 19 that are in design, and of 19, 8 of those are going into construction later this summer, early fall. So we've got quite a few projects continuing in our schedule, but we're averaging those 20 projects or so in the construction phase. As we retire projects, we're putting them right into those open spaces for our contractors that are seeking work. There's 10 contracts yet to have architects assigned to them, but of those 10, 5 would be seen at this trust at the next meeting, or 2 for approval. And so we will very quickly finish the design contracts by the end of the summer. For the bid schedule that's upcoming, Sequoia is at the end of July on July 27th. We then are bidding every week in August. Northwest Classen will kick off on 8/3, Johnson on 8/10, Eugene Field on 8/17, and then we'll finish August with Buchanan on 8/24. We have 2 projects bidding in September, Prairie Queen and Hawthorne, and then in October, Belle Isle. So 8 projects that are quickly coming up for bid later this year. Things are proceeding very well, really, and we've seen tremendous progress by the contractors. Obviously, there's a lot of work that is in Oklahoma City, and I think we represent a large portion of that. We'll continue to monitor the bidding market, and again, I'll try to provide additional updates in the future as we learn more. But we are watching the contingency fund very closely. We are managing a contingency fund that we've mentioned in the past, the program contingency, that's about $20 million, and we are using portions of that, as we have today, to award these construction contracts. But I will bring a contingency fund report to you in the near future to provide an update. With that, our next meeting is in 2 weeks.
Are there any other questions?
Eric, were any of the projects impacted by the rain yesterday?
We took on a little bit of water at Kaiser. Kaiser is a school on the west side of Oklahoma City that has most of the windows removed on one of its wings, but the contractor was squeegeeing and making that floor dry again. Other than that, I was not reported any other wet conditions in schools. The one that we had, of course, the most concern about was Eugene Field. That's the one that's receiving the new roof, but I'm told it is dry. And so the work that the contractor has done preparing that new roof has dried in that school, and we did not see water there.
Any other questions? You received a monthly report from ADG Architecture for you to read at your leisure. Are there any comments by trustees, staff, citizens? Thank you. We are adjourned.